Imagine waking up tomorrow and New York City is completely gone. Every skyscraper, every subway line, every trace of millions of people vanished. 2,000 years passed, and future generations genuinely debate if the city ever existed at all.
That exact nightmare happened to Babylon.
We are talking about the undisputed heavyweight champion of the ancient world, the absolute crown jewel of human civilization. Whoever controlled the gates of Babylon controlled the entire globe. Thousands of years ago, this metropolis dictated global trade, defined modern mathematics, and commanded the most feared military on the planet. Today, if you visit that exact coordinates in modern Iraq, you will find a desolate pile of mud bricks baking in the desert sun. No apocalyptic meteor struck the earth, no cataclysmic flood swallowed the streets. The city suffered a bizarre, agonizing, and highly deliberate erasure from history. How do you permanently misplace the greatest city on earth? Let's open up the ancient archive and figure out exactly why Babylon disappeared. To comprehend the sheer scale of this disappearance, we have to look at Babylon at its absolute peak. Enter King Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BC. He engineered an absolute monument to human ego. The city defenses were borderline psychotic. Nebuchadnezzar surrounded Babylon with a colossal double wall system spanning over 17 miles. Historical accounts claim these walls were so incredibly thick that charioteers could race 4-horse teams side by side along the top edge. Any invading army looking up at those defenses knew a direct assault equaled immediate suicide. Inside those impenetrable walls, the city pulsed with unimaginable wealth and sensory overload. The main entrance, the Ishtar Gate, stood nearly 40 feet high. Builders covered the entire structure in brilliant lapis lazuli glazed bricks, decorating the surface with golden dragons and bulls. Walking through that gate meant you were entering the undisputed center of the universe. You had the Hanging Gardens, an engineering marvel defying the arid desert landscape with cascading waterfalls and exotic plants. You had Edamononki, a massive ziggurat towering nearly 300 feet into the sky. That specific building directly inspired the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. Babylon operated as the Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and Hollywood of antiquity. Babylonian scholars mapped the constellations. They invented the base 60 mathematical system. Every time you count 60 seconds in a minute or measure 360 degrees in a circle, you are directly using Babylonian technology. The population swelled to over 200,000 people, dwarfing every other settlement on the map. The citizens felt entirely untouchable. They fully believed their empire would reign forever. That extreme arrogance created a fatal blind spot. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia set his sights on the ultimate prize. He marched his massive army toward Babylon. Inside the city walls, the Babylonians remained completely unbothered. They had enough food stockpiled to last for years. The reigning elite felt so insanely secure that they hosted a massive religious festival. The royal court feasted and drank heavily, while the Persian army camped literally right outside their gates. Cyrus recognized the impossibility of breaking down the outer walls. He needed a back door. The Euphrates River provided the perfect answer. The river flowed directly through the center of Babylon, supplying the city with fresh water. Massive iron grates extended deep into the water to prevent anyone from swimming inside. Cyrus ordered his engineers to dig massive trenches miles upstream. Under the cover of total darkness, they diverted the mighty Euphrates into a nearby swamp. The water level flowing through Babylon rapidly dropped from a roaring river to a muddy puddle barely reaching a man's thigh. The elite Persian strike force simply waded through the mud, slipped underneath the heavy iron grates, and walked right into the sleeping city. The greatest fortress on earth fell in a single night. Cyrus respected the city deeply. He kept Babylon entirely intact, utilizing it as a crown jewel and secondary capital for the booming Persian Empire. The grand temples stayed open. The merchants kept trading. The city survived the conquest seamlessly. 2 centuries later, a new conqueror arrived to shake the foundations of the world. Alexander the Great smashed the Persian Empire and rode his horse through the Ishtar Gate in 331 BC. The citizens literally threw flowers at his feet. Alexander became completely obsessed with Babylon. He looked at the sprawling ancient metropolis and decided to make it the absolute center of his new global empire. He initiated massive renovation projects, pouring unimaginable wealth into restoring the decaying ziggurats and expanding the trade ports. He envisioned a future where Babylon ruled a unified world, bridging Europe and Asia. If Alexander had lived, Babylon would likely still dominate the global map today as a modern megacity. Instead, at the age of 32, Alexander caught a sudden fever in Nebuchadnezzar's royal palace. He died a few days later. That single unexpected death signed the actual death warrant for Babylon. Without an heir, Alexander's generals ruthlessly carved up his massive empire. A ruthless commander named Seleucus seized control of the Babylonian territory. Seleucus refused to rule from a city built by ancient kings. He demanded his own legacy. He envisioned a fresh, modern, Hellenistic capital filled with Greek architecture and Greek culture. He founded a brand new city called Seleucia, located roughly 40 miles away on the banks of the Tigris River. Building a massive new capital requires astronomical resources. Seleucus looked at the towering walls and grand palaces of Babylon and saw a massive, free quarry. He initiated the bureaucratic murder of a mega city. Seleucus ordered the government, the elite class, and the wealthy merchants to permanently abandon Babylon and relocate to Seleucia. To build the new capital, workers actively dismantled Babylon brick by brick. They tore down the sacred temples, loaded the ancient stones onto barges, and shipped them up the river to construct the new Greek city. The population bled out slowly. As the central government abandoned the area, the intricate canal systems that irrigated the surrounding farmland fell into total disrepair. The mighty Euphrates River naturally shifted its course away from the city center over the centuries, destroying the local agriculture entirely. Economic strangulation wiped Babylon off the map. By the time the Roman Empire expanded into the region a few centuries later, travelers seeking the legendary city found a desolate wasteland. Wild animals roamed through the crumbling, empty foundations of former palaces. Eventually, the unforgiving desert winds buried the remaining rubble under thick layers of sand. The city vanished from the surface of the earth. For nearly 2 millennia, the city existed only in legends, religious texts, and unverified rumors. People genuinely questioned if the immense scale of Babylon was entirely fictional. In the late 19th century, a German archaeologist named Robert Koldewey arrived in modern-day Iraq. He began excavating a massive, strange mound of dirt near the Euphrates River. His shovels struck glazed blue bricks. Over the next 2 decades, Koldewey's team pulled the corpse of the ancient world's greatest power out of the mud. They unearthed the foundations of the Ishtar Gate and the massive defensive walls. More importantly, they found an absolute goldmine of data, a massive ancient archive. The dry desert sand perfectly preserved tens of thousands of cuneiform clay tablets. These small clay blocks detailed the exact reality of Babylonian life. Archaeologists translated complex legal codes, detailed astronomical diaries, personal letters between family members, and highly aggressive customer service complaints about poor quality copper shipments. These tiny clay documents held the actual heartbeat of the vanished city. Babylon proves that human power is terrifyingly fragile. Unbeatable empires fall, global trade routes shift. The most impressive walls ever constructed can be entirely recycled into something else. The city itself suffered total physical erasure from the map. Yet thanks to that ancient archive buried deep in the mud, the voices of everyday citizens managed to completely outlive the empires that destroyed their home. If a megacity of that magnitude can be entirely swallowed by the earth, you have to wonder what other massive secrets are buried right under our feet, waiting to be found. Subscribe so you never miss the next piece of history we dig up. See you next time.